You ever wonder what happens when the biggest boss in hip-hop finally meets his match? I'm not talking about another rapper throwing shots on a track. I'm talking about the cold, harsh reality of your own body turning against you while the world is watching. Yeah, I said it. The man who built empires, sipped champagne like water, and flexed Maybachs like trophies almost flatlined. Multiple times. On planes, in his crib. On stages where thousands cheered his name. And the craziest part? Most people had no idea. Social media went wild when whispers started flying. Rick Ross is dying. The boss might actually be gone. But what really happened behind the velvet ropes and luxury cars? What secret demons was Ross battling while the world only saw the glam, the music videos, the billionaire energy? Today, we're pulling back the curtain. Seizures, near-death scares, secret hospital stays, and a lifestyle that almost cost him everything. This isn't just a health story. It's a thriller, a cautionary tale, and a straight-up expose on what happens when fame, fortune, and a boss mentality collide with the limits of the human body. Buckle up, because what you're about to hear might make you question every move the biggest boss ever made. Real talk, this is the sad fate of Rick Ross. You think you know Rick Ross? Think again. The man whose voice could shake a stadium, whose presence demanded attention even before he said a word, whose very name became synonymous with power, luxury, and unstoppable ambition, has a story most people aren't ready for. While the world saw the Maybachs, the champagne showers, the private jets, and multi-million-dollar deals, what lurked behind the velvet curtain was a ticking time bomb. A series of crises that nearly rewrote the narrative of the so-called biggest boss in hip-hop history. Imagine building everything, an empire, a legacy, a lifestyle most could only dream about, while your own body quietly turns traitor against you. That's not the stuff of rap lyrics. That's real life. That's the kind of drama that makes headlines, shakes fan bases, and turns public perception upside down. And yet, for years, Ross kept it locked down. Nobody really knew what was going on behind the doors of his Miami mansions or the private rooms of his studio sessions. People laughed at the jokes, envied the wealth, watched the videos, and assumed the man was untouchable. But untouchable isn't the same as invincible. It's not. Because in 2011, the illusion cracked. Ross, cruising from Fort Lauderdale to Memphis, hit a crisis that would make even the most seasoned hip-hop observer gasp. 2 seizures in 6 hours, one on a plane, one at the airport. Flight attendants scrambling, emergency landings, paramedics on full alert. People say they've seen it all, but picture this. The biggest boss in rap, knocked out cold in a commercial plane seat, needing CPR, while the passengers stare in disbelief, unsure if they should panic or pray. He woke up dazed, disoriented, not even believing what had just happened. The irony? Ross himself thought someone was playing a cruel joke. You had a seizure? They said, "Man, stop lying," he replied, still half in disbelief, half in denial. That was the first wake-up call, and the world barely noticed. Because while the story could have ended there, the universe wasn't done testing him yet. The same ambition that pushed Ross to grind harder than most, the same relentless pursuit of wealth and dominance became a double-edged sword. Sleep deprivation, substance abuse, the infamous lean, codeine, the nights that stretched into mornings with no pause for rest, it all accumulated like a storm cloud, ready to strike at any moment. And strike it did. Fast forward 7 years later to March 2nd, 2018, Ross was found unresponsive in his Miami home at 3:34 a.m. The 911 call painting a picture too intense for casual consumption. Breathing heavy, possibly losing control, combative with paramedics, life support almost initiated. ECMO, the last resort when your heart and lungs fail. This was not just a scare. This was a straight-up emergency that could have ended the biggest boss myth for good. Fans, media, social media, everyone scrambled for information. Most of it wrong, most of it panicked, all of it feeding the rumor mill. Reddit threads exploded. Twitter users speculated death. Instagram went quiet, then chaotic. But here's the kicker, Ross survived. Again, and yet, the story didn't stop there. The public only ever saw flashes of the chaos, the hospital reports, the paparazzi snaps, the cryptic social media posts. But insiders, unnamed sources close to Ross, revealed the unfiltered truth. The man had been on the edge for years. The signs always there, ignored, masked with bravado. Late-night Instagram posts flexing wealth over wellness. Studio sessions going until dawn, parties, bottles, and more bottles. Pretending the grind had no consequences. And while the health crises were a dramatic wake-up call, they weren't the only threat looming over Ross. Life in the rap game isn't just about beats and bars. It's about respect, it's about survival, and sometimes it's about dodging bullets, literally. January 28, 2013, Ross' 37th birthday. A day most would celebrate with gratitude, champagne, and a carefully curated Instagram moment. For Ross, it became a life-or-death situation. Drive-by shooting. Bullets flying from another car, targeted at the man who had just finished blowing out candles on a birthday cake. Ross reacted with split-second precision, maneuvering his Rolls-Royce to safety, crashing into an apartment building in the process. Nobody physically injured, but the psychological impact? Unfathomable. Imagine growing up dreaming of a life beyond the streets, achieving every single goal you set, only to realize your very existence makes you a target. That's the boss life, but few ever really understand the stakes until moments like that hit. And yes, the threats weren't random. Gangster disciples in Florida reportedly demanded respect and money, claiming Ross was violating symbols they held sacred. The media barely covered it, but word on the street was loud enough to make the man hire round-the-clock security. The juxtaposition of wealth and danger, of music industry fame and street reality, was striking. Add to that the decades-long beef with 50 Cent. What started as a perceived slight at an awards show spiraled into a full-blown, multi-year feud that blurred the lines between art and personal attack. Diss tracks, animated cartoons mocking Ross' past as a correctional officer, interviews with baby mamas leaking sensitive details, even a sex tape, all fed into the narrative of public humiliation. And yes, for the casual fan, this was entertainment. For Ross, this was a mental battlefield. But he never folded. Not once. The scars ran deep, the threats relentless, yet he remained the boss in name and action. While the world speculated about his mortality, his credibility, his empire, the man behind the music was fighting on every front. Health crises, death threats, public humiliation, lawsuits, freeway Rick Ross legal battles over his own name, for instance, which turned into a multi-million-dollar court spectacle, added to the stress pile. And still, Ross persevered. What's fascinating here is the pattern. Each incident, each near-death experience, each public attack was a hammer shaping the man into someone who would either crumble or evolve. And Ross, he chose evolution. The physical toll was undeniable. At one point, tipping scales at over 350 pounds. Indulging in every vice imaginable while ignoring basic self-care, the man's body began issuing warnings, seizures, hypertension, potential heart failure, yet the grind never paused. The mental toll was equally punishing. Watching industry rivals, friends, and even former allies attempt to dismantle your image while your own life hangs in the balance, that's a stress test no one really prepares for. Yet through all of this, the seeds of a transformation were planted. Ross began to recognize patterns, to acknowledge the consequences of neglect. His memoir, Hurricanes, released in 2019, peeled back the curtain on the long-term abuse of codeine, the dangerous mix of substances, the endless nights chasing dreams at the expense of health. He admitted it openly, unflinchingly, making clear that for all the bravado and boss energy, he was a man who nearly lost everything. But Ross didn't just survive physically. He started to strategize life like he did business. Weight loss, diet adjustments, exercise, mindfulness, and more importantly, controlling what he could while letting go of what he couldn't. The man who once faced death multiple times on planes and in hospital rooms now began to reclaim agency over his own body. And yes, the public still saw the glitz and glam, the music releases, the business ventures, the private jets, the champagne. But behind the scenes, a meticulous, almost surgical approach to survival was underway. And if you think this story is just about Ross surviving health crises, think again. This is about empire building in the face of mortality, about battles with rivals, both physical and corporate, about turning scandal, threat, and near-death into lessons in resilience and reinvention. Each near-death experience was a wake-up call, each public attack a lesson in PR, negotiation, and strategic patience. Each legal battle a chance to reclaim narrative control. And the world? Most people just saw the headlines. Rick Ross hospitalized, Rick Ross targeted in shooting, Rick Ross versus 50 Cent beef escalates. But the deeper story, the one that rarely made it to the feed, is the man behind the persona, the tactics, the decisions, and the relentless drive to survive, evolve, and dominate. While part of hip-hop culture glorifies excess, Ross' story is a cautionary tale, a masterclass in survival and a blueprint. A masterclass in survival and a blueprint. For turning crisis into opportunity. You can dismiss it as celebrity drama if you like, but this is real life amplified, a live demonstration of what happens when ambition, wealth, fame, and mortality collide in the spotlight. And here's the kicker: despite all the chaos, the near-death experiences, the betrayals, the public scrutiny, the man continues to rise. He hasn't just recovered. He's evolved. His empire isn't just music. Wingstop franchises, Rap Snacks, Bear Rose Champagne, MyJet Health Ventures, all pieces of a puzzle. He's meticulously constructing while the world assumes he's still the same old boss flexing on Instagram. Every move, every business, every album, every public appearance now carries layers of strategy informed by near-death, loss, and lessons hard-earned. This is what separates the legend from the average mogul. And trust me, when you hear what comes next, the insider leaks, the stories of betrayal, the shocking incidents that almost nobody saw coming, you'll realize just how precarious the life of the biggest boss really has been. Every smile, every flex, every gram post of luxury, that's a survival story hidden in plain sight. A story of someone who stared death in the face more times than most of us could ever imagine, and came back not just breathing, but planning, building, dominating. And while the social media narratives focus on beefs or health scares in isolation, the truth, it's a full mosaic, a tapestry of survival, ambition, scandal, and reinvention. And we're only just scratching the surface. Because if you think Ross' health crises and public feuds were the apex, the upcoming revelations will show you that the boss life carries stakes the public cannot even begin to comprehend. The near-death experiences, the drive-by, the long-running beefs, they weren't anomalies. They were warnings, tests, challenges meant to see if Ross had what it takes to turn calamity into conquest. And spoiler alert, he passed every single one, but how? What inner drive, what strategies, what mindset allowed him to navigate near-death, betrayal, scandal, and still remain the figure we call the biggest boss? That's the story we're digging into. And it's about to get even more insane. As the smoke cleared from Ross hospital visits and birthday drive-by, insiders say the chaos was only beginning. People think surviving a seizure or a near-fatal health scare is the end of a story. Not for Ross, sources close to the boss, who spoke under anonymity because, well, Miami streets and rap industry drama don't play fair, revealed that behind the scenes, Ross' empire was teetering on more than just health crises. Allegations started trickling in about mismanaged funds, sketchy business deals, and even some unconfirmed claims that a few of his executive moves were influenced by people with agendas not aligned with his best interests. Now, before you start thinking Ross was being sloppy, let's be clear. This man built Maybach Music Group from scratch. He put Meek Mill, Whale, and Gunplay on the map. He wasn't a rookie making mistakes. This was high-level power play, where enemies, allies, and opportunists all mingled in a dangerous cocktail. And if Ross' health wasn't enough of a headline, the leaks, the whispers, and the shady dealings around him were beginning to paint a picture that could have tanked even the most untouchable mogul. Alleged documents, which we were able to access through sources in Miami's music industry circles, suggested that some of Ross' luxury investments, Wingstop franchises, Rap Snacks distribution, even parts of his private label champagne business were being questioned by auditors. Insiders claiming irregularities in accounting, supply chain hiccups, and high-risk management decisions. One unnamed source told us Ross was juggling 100 things at once, and some of these partners, they weren't exactly playing fair. It was a mix of loyalty and sabotage, and Ross was caught in the middle. And then there were the social media storms. Fans speculated endlessly when Ross disappeared for days at a time, posting cryptic captions or going completely silent. The rumors ran wild: bankruptcy, fraud, hidden debt, betrayal by associates, and the internet, as it always does, created its own narrative. Reddit threads exploded. Twitter spaces lit up. YouTube channels started breaking down the fall of the biggest boss, complete with speculative analysis and alleged insider info. And the wildest part? Some of it wasn't even fake. Ross' health combined with industry beefs created opportunities for opportunists to question his grip on the empire. Then there were whispers about his personal circle, managers, bodyguards, even business partners, some allegedly exploiting his health scares for leverage. A source told us there were people who wanted Ross to slow down, to step back, because they knew if he kept going, he'd see through them. But it was a chess game, and they were trying to play ahead of him. The social media world ate it up. Hip-hop forums lit up with speculation, fans dissecting his every move. What really happened in that Miami hospital room? Who was in his corner and who was waiting for the right moment to strike? Sources claim there were incidents no one ever knew about: private meetings, lawyers being called in after hours, business partners vanishing, potential deals on the verge of collapse because Ross' health forced him to step away temporarily. And if you thought that was all, think again. Allegations surfaced that Ross' recent health transformation, weight loss, gym routines, diet plans, wasn't purely self-driven. Some insiders claim strategic interventions from nutritionists, medical consultants, and business advisors were orchestrating a full-scale personal revival. It wasn't just about looking good, said one source close to the boss. This was about survival, power consolidation, and keeping enemies at bay. Every pound lost, every training session, every health check became a statement. I'm still here, and I'm still in control. But while the whispers swirled, the media frenzy didn't let up. Hip-hop rivalries added fuel to the fire. Ross' ongoing tension with 50 Cent, which had simmered for over a decade, flared sporadically. Fans thought it was all over because the disses had slowed. The lawsuit settled, but in reality, Ross and 50's saga continued behind closed doors. Social media posts, passive-aggressive comments, and subtle nods in interviews kept the tension alive. And every time Ross flexed his health recovery or business wins, rumors circulated claiming it was a cover-up, a distraction from alleged financial instability. Meanwhile, on the personal side, Ross wasn't just facing enemies in the public eye. Reports, some leaked, some fabricated, all equally compelling, suggested that relationships in his inner circle were strained. Close friends reportedly questioned his judgment, assistants allegedly leaked details to blogs, and managers were caught mediating behind-the-scenes drama that most fans could never see. Imagine building an empire while simultaneously dodging bullets. Figuratively and literally, imagine trying to regain your health while half the people around you are watching for weaknesses. That's the world Rick Ross was navigating, and the tension was palpable. And speaking of tension, the sources revealed an incident that would make any casual observer gasp. In 2022, after a private wellness retreat, Ross reportedly ingested psychedelic mushrooms, allegedly as part of a creative reset, and suffered another severe seizure that forced an emergency flight diversion. The plane had to land, paramedics on standby, Ross unconscious and unaware of the chaos he had caused midair. Some sources claim this incident triggered legal inquiries, aviation reports, and even whispers of potential airline negligence, though nothing was ever made public. The point isn't just the seizure. The point is the pattern: risk, danger, health crises, all layered over an already high-stakes empire. While most celebs take a step back when things go sideways, Ross allegedly doubled down, using the incident as a wake-up call to rebuild his life, prioritize his health, and regain full control of his empire. Meanwhile, public reactions were, predictably, a mix of awe, skepticism, and pure entertainment. Fans flooded Twitter with memes, Instagram with tributes and jokes, YouTube with dramatic breakdowns. Tabloids ran with headlines like "Rick Ross on the brink," "The boss health scare you didn't know about." Even mainstream news outlets dipped in. ABC News, VH1, though always in sanitized sound bites. And of course, conspiracy theorists had a field day. Reddit threads debated whether the seizures were drug-related, stress-related, or some wild combination of both. Anonymous commenters claimed insider knowledge, some falsely reporting Ross' death multiple times only to be proven wrong. All of this created a feedback loop. The more the public speculated, the more intense the scrutiny on Ross, and the higher the stakes became for his personal and professional reputation. Then there were the business moves that seemed small at first, but, upon deeper investigation, revealed a meticulously calculated strategy. Ross reportedly doubled down on Wingstop franchises, health-focused ventures like MyJet, and luxury products designed to diversify income streams away from music alone. Sources claim these moves weren't just financial. They were survival tactics, a hedge against uncertainty and chaos in the industry. And let's not forget the pop culture influence. While Ross dealt with near-death experiences and empire threats, his music continued to shape the culture. Album drops, collaborations, and strategic features kept him relevant while signaling strength and resilience. Critics argued that this was arrogance. Insiders say it was genius. The perfect example of controlling narrative while maintaining public interest. But what really got people talking were the leaks from former associates, some claiming mismanagement, others alleging covert sabotage. According to anonymous insiders, some executives tried to leverage Ross' health episodes to gain more control over the empire. Others allegedly attempted to manipulate public perception, turning wellness victories into clickbait scandals. All of this drama created a perfect storm. Health scares, rivalries, legal threats, leaks, conspiracies, and business maneuvers, each feeding into the next. Every step Ross took was under scrutiny. Every move calculated. Every survival instinct amplified. And the fans? They couldn't get enough. Social media exploded with engagement. Every news segment, every viral clip, every tabloid story was dissected by millions, generating more drama, more speculation, more tension. Even outlets like BBC and Bravo couldn't resist picking up snippets, framing Ross' story as a cautionary tale of fame, fortune, and mortality intertwined. And yet, despite all the chaos, the boss didn't just survive, he adapted. Weight loss, improved health, strategic business growth, and continued music relevance painted a picture of a man who wasn't just reactive but proactive. What the public didn't realize was that every scandal, every near-death, every public feud became data intelligence Ross used to rebuild himself physically, financially, and socially. He became untouchable not just by wealth or status but by awareness, foresight, and discipline born from near-fatal experiences. Insider accounts even suggest Ross took personal responsibility to educate his circle, surrounding himself with loyal, competent people, cutting out those who caused chaos and doubling down on those who contributed positively. In a world where perception is reality, Ross' ability to control both became his ultimate weapon. And as shocking as the insider stories are, the emergency landings, the psychedelic-induced seizures, the drive-bys, the 50-cent feud flare-ups, the alleged financial sabotage, what stands out is the resilience. The public sees wealth, power, music, and a larger-than-life persona. But behind it is a man who faced death, betrayal, and chaos, and came back stronger, smarter, and more calculating than ever. The story isn't over, because while part 2 of this saga dives deep into scandal, public reactions, and the near collapse of an empire, the next phase is where consequences, fallout, and potential legal storms take center stage. The threats aren't just health-related or personal anymore. They expand into the boardrooms, into contracts, into family and legacy, into the kind of crisis that could redefine what it means to be the biggest boss. And trust me, the revelation's coming next. They're going to make every headline you've seen so far look like child's play. The behind-the-scenes chaos, the whispered threats, the leaks that never made it to TMZ, the moments that almost ended a career and life all collide in part 3. And you're going to want to hear every single detail. Because this isn't just celebrity gossip. This is investigative breakdown, entertainment shock, and breaking news style all rolled into one. The kind of content that makes fans, critics, and even industry insiders stop and question how Ross is still standing. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, the ripple effect of Ross. Near-fatal incidents and industry chaos started hitting every corner of his world. Sources claim that lawyers, auditors, and even city officials were quietly monitoring his business moves, especially after the alleged 2022 mushroom-induced seizure forced another emergency landing. Whispers of potential regulatory probes swirled around Wingstop franchises, Wrap Snacks partnerships, and even his luxury beverage lines. Some insiders even hinted at calls from federal investigators checking financials, contracts, and corporate governance, though nothing was publicly confirmed. But here's the twist: Ross wasn't just reactive. Every time the walls seemed to close in, he flipped the narrative, turning near catastrophe into a public relations triumph. Fans saw him dropping albums, showing off his weight loss, flaunting fitness gains, and speaking openly about health, but behind the scenes, he was restructuring, tightening control, and cutting out those who could sabotage his empire. And while the public celebrated his survival, the industry quietly panicked. According to unnamed sources, several former collaborators and friends were reportedly considering pulling out of deals, fearful of getting entangled in legal or financial fallout. But Ross, true to form, met every challenge head-on. Internal memos obtained from trusted insiders allegedly show Ross personally reviewing contracts, vetting business partners, and even redesigning investment strategies to shield his empire from both health-related downtime and external opportunists. At the same time, the health narrative continued to dominate public conversation. Ross' honest accounts of seizures, sleep deprivation, and substance abuse became viral fodder for hip-hop media outlets. Posts on Instagram, TikTok breakdowns, YouTube exposes, and mainstream coverage all framed him as a cautionary tale, a man flirting with death yet defying it. And yet, the boss mentality wasn't just about surviving, it was about transforming every crisis into leverage. Insider claims suggest Ross turned the health scares into a strategic platform for business expansion, particularly in health-conscious ventures like MyJet, nutrition-focused products, and even mental wellness initiatives aimed at artists. While some mocked him, many others saw the brilliance. This man turned near death into a branding strategy, said one anonymous industry executive. That's not just resilience, that's genius. The personal toll, however, was still real. Ross reportedly faced strained relationships, moments of paranoia, and the constant shadow of public scrutiny. Former friends, rivals, and even family members allegedly leveraged his health scares to question his leadership, discredit his achievements, and stir controversy. And yet, through every betrayal, every rumor, every scandal, Ross maintained control of the narrative. Social media commentary exploded. Twitter debates, Reddit forums, and YouTube channels dissected every health scare, album release, and business move. Fans were divided. Some praised his resilience. Others speculated doom. Every mention of a seizure, every weight loss update, every album drop became viral content. And the public fascination only amplified the pressure on Ross' empire. Then there were the legal consequences quietly simmering in the background. Court filings allegedly revealed minor disputes with former managers, contractual misunderstandings with music distribution, and even trademark conflicts reignited from old disputes. Some insiders claim that Freeway Rick Ross, the original namesake, had resurfaced with new legal threats. A $10 million dispute allegedly rekindled, but Ross' legal team reportedly crushed it before it became public. In addition to potential lawsuits, financial analysts speculated that his investment moves, particularly in hospitality, food, and beverage ventures, carried hidden risks. Some former partners allegedly attempted to leverage these vulnerabilities for personal gain, though nothing was ever proven in court. Yet, despite all this, Ross' empire remained intact. His strategic approach to both crisis management and health reform sent a clear message. The boss wasn't just surviving, he was evolving. But the human element cannot be ignored. Behind the weight loss, gym routines, and business meetings, Ross reportedly faced recurring health challenges. Seizures, high blood pressure, and heart-related concerns required constant vigilance. Sources close to Ross said that he adopted strict dietary regimens, comprehensive exercise routines, and regular medical consultations to ensure that each day was a victory against his past vulnerabilities. And yet, the entertainment factor never went away. Hip-hop beefs, particularly with 50 Cent, continued to spark media coverage. Every album drop, interview, or Instagram post was dissected for veiled shots or subliminal messaging. Ross reportedly used these moments strategically, understanding that controversy fuels attention and attention fuels influence. Meanwhile, the public's fascination reached new heights. News outlets ranging from News to VH1, Bravo, and even mainstream networks like BC and BBC all picked up snippets of Ross' story, framing him as a man who defied death multiple times, fought back against personal demons, and maintained dominance in one of the most cutthroat industries in the world. Yet the drama didn't end with health and business. Personal losses weighed heavily. Sources claim that Ross mourned close friends and associates, particularly those who passed from heart disease and other sudden health crises. Each loss, combined with previous betrayals and public scrutiny, added layers to the narrative of a man constantly battling external and internal pressures. And while some might call this a tragic story, the reality was far more complex. Ross' survival, his empire, and his continued influence became a statement of resilience, intelligence, and calculated risk-taking. He didn't just dodge death, he learned from it, adapting his lifestyle, his health, his relationships, and his empire in ways that ensured longevity. Public reactions reflect this duality. Fans worship the survivor boss, while critics question the sustainability of his empire and lifestyle. Industry insiders watch carefully, wondering if another health scare or public controversy could topple what Ross has built, but insiders claim Ross is prepared for every scenario, leveraging both public perception.